Hello. Immediately getting a visitor. Okay, where do I want to start? Due to illness, I have not been able to prepare my usual YouTube video this week. So I connected on Instagram Live on my account at Lorena Shoot instead. This is the recording of this. Here I answered some viewer questions and addressed the topic of how to face your fears and be present with your emotions whilst holding your vision for the future you want to create. I hope you enjoy this very raw, honest, and vulnerable share, and I trust that it empowers you to take control of your state of being and ultimately of your reality, whilst being authentic with yourself and allowing yourself to feel your emotions, good or bad. Lots of love, Lorena. It's always my intention to be authentic with you and to be open and honest about what I'm going through and what's present for me. And I've really been going through it. I've really been going through it over the last couple of weeks. I'm really digging and getting to the depths of some dark As some of you may know, I was pretty ill. The thing that goes around caught me finally, and it really knocked me out. But what I didn't anticipate in the process was that so many emotions came up and so many fears came up, and that was really hard to sit with. And that was something that nobody prepared me for, the physical stuff. I knew that would happen if I caught it, but the emotional stuff caught me off guard. A friend of mine actually said it beautifully. She said to me, it makes sense that if you're ill and you're more in the body. And if you're more in the body, you have more direct access to your subconscious rather than being in the, logical, analytical mind. So I thought, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's exactly what happened. All of the things that I was subconsciously blocking came to the surface. I really faced some intense fears, and I'm still facing them. I'm still sitting with them. And I think what's important when this happens, when we have fear that comes up, or when we have pain that comes up, or when we go through really dark stuff, is that we acknowledge that that part is really just protecting us. It's working so damn hard to protect you, and that's why you're not feeling it all the time. That's why sometimes old trauma comes up that you didn't even know you had to deal with because you were subconsciously suppressing it. But that's not a bad thing. It's doing it on purpose to protect you, because it would sometimes be too much to feel all of it all the time. Sometimes it's important not to face that stuff. Sometimes it's important to protect yourself. It's so important to just be present with whatever is coming up, returning to the breath, returning to the moment, just taking a deep breath and being present with whatever comes up, be that pain or fear, and really be here with it. This needs to be here. It's not wrong, because so often we reject it because it doesn't feel good, It doesn't feel good to be scared. It doesn't feel good to feel pain. We don't want it. It's here for a reason, so it's not wrong. Nothing here is wrong. And a thing that really came up for me when I was so ill was that I noticed I don't want to live in the future. Like, I want to feel alive. I want to be here now. I want to be present. I guess what I want to talk about here is, how do you acknowledge what's going on around you? How are you present with what's going on around you whilst also holding your vision for the future that you want to create? How do you align the two? How do you do both at the same time? Because it feels kind of like a contradiction. And a fear that comes up a lot for people in general is, what if I'm wasting time creating this vision of the future that's possibly never going to happen? Because at the end of the day, we don't have a guarantee. We can only have control over our perception, over our inner world, and yeah, the outer world reflects that ultimately what's going on within us, but we're not directly influencing the outer world. It's just a reflection based on our inner world. The only thing we ever really have control over in each moment is our inner state, our inner world. You know, how do we align the two? How do we do that? And it's such a balancing act. And it feels like such hard work, right? How do I feel all my fears and my pain? And how am I present with this? And how do I not deny my reality while still living in possibility and allowing the future to unfold? One thing that is just present for me is that I just want to live more, be more in flow, and be more surrendered to what is happening around me rather than trying to control things. And that doesn't mean not having a vision for the future, but it means not being attached to how that future turns out to be okay with anything that comes up. And the second thing that I want to say is that is related to people who have the fear of what if I'm wasting my time. And that is, you can't do it wrong. You can't do it wrong because there's infinite possibilities in each moment, and every choice you make has an impact. And once you make that choice, a timeline unfolds, and the only moment that you ever have is now. You cannot make any mistakes here. You cannot do this wrong. And you can hold your vision, have a vision of the future, live in possibility, and I guess play around in the quantum fields, whilst at the same time you can be present with everything that you're feeling, and being okay with everything that you're feeling, and knowing that if the future didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, you'd still be okay ultimately. Does this resonate, or does it confuse you? Yeah, I'm okay. I'm dancing with the shadows. I can tell you that. I am in my little hole as okay as I can be. But you know what I also believe? I believe this stuff only comes up when we're ready, because for a long, long time, I felt like there were blocked emotions in me that I couldn't access. I felt like why can I not get there? I know there's something that wants to be felt and I can't get there. Finally, it cracked open. And that's what's happening now. It's cracking open, and I'm like giving it up to God, surrendering to it. And it's hard. But I noticed that it cracked open at the right moment, because before, when I couldn't access it, I was protecting myself from all those feelings because I wouldn't have been ready. Those feelings might have catapulted me into depression if I had accessed them too early. So it's actually so beautiful how sometimes it happens in the exact perfect way. Just reading your comments. It brings up anxiety. Yeah, does it? Why does it bring up anxiety for you? I was crying when you started this live. This was what I needed this moment. So glad this came at the right time. Feelings are more subconscious. I just started working with a coach very recently myself. I like to grow as well. I like to get that support as well, just like I offer it to you. I wanted to go really deep, and I guess this is why this has been cracking open for me now as well. And we're talking a lot about my own self-worth and how I still had some beliefs in me around what makes me worthy and what doesn't make me worthy. And I said to him, I don't understand, because I know that stuff is not what makes me worthy, but still I carry these beliefs, it's still here. And he said to me, yeah, but feelings aren't rational. And it really hit home, because this is so true, because sometimes we're like, I know how this works, what I need to change and shift within me. And I know that I need to rewire some things here, and I need to drop into a different state. I know that this doesn't have any logical base. And still I feel it. And we get so annoyed at ourselves when really feelings are not, logical. They're just here to be felt. So we can just be present with them, even if it's hard, because it can be hard. But it does feel different when we're blocking ourselves from feeling them rather than dropping into them and allowing ourselves to feel it all. How to deal with overwhelming feelings, pain, grief, and finding and accessing joy again. I think the key thing here is, and it is difficult because, as I said, there is this part of you that wants to protect you from feeling those things. And sometimes that's good that that part exists, because sometimes not feeling those things, especially if it's coming from some deeper trauma, is actually the best thing you can do in that moment. And you can feel it and heal it when you're ready to. But when those feelings want to come up, if you feel pain or grief, the important thing is to allow yourself to be present with it, be in the moment, take a deep breath, be there for yourself and soothe yourself. Don't reject that part of yourself that wants to feel these emotions, because you're just perpetuating it by saying, I'm rejecting you. Because essentially you're saying that to yourself. If you reject your own emotions, you're saying you're not welcome here. So allow yourself to feel it. And obviously, yeah, that feels terrible. That feels hard. That feels overwhelming. This is why it's so scary, because we're losing control. When we feel anger or fear, we don't know. It feels in that moment, it feels like we'll never be happy again, like we'll never get out of it again. But that's not true. You can get out of it always. But allow yourself to be in it in that moment, because the more you push it away, the more it will come back anyway. You asked as well, how can I access joy again? Don't feel the quote unquote negative feelings just in order for them to go away. Like, really be present in them, and also know that they are just a gateway to all those good feelings. If you don't know what fear feels like, you will not know what love feels like. If you don't know what anger feels like, you don't know what peace feels like. If you don't know what grief feels like, you don't know what joy and happiness feel like. If you can feel this end of the spectrum, you can also feel the other end of the spectrum. You don't need to worry about never being able to feel that good stuff again, because it is there. If you can feel that part, you can feel that part. But don't push this side away in that moment. Be present with this part as well, because otherwise you're just saying, you're not welcome here, I only want the good stuff. As I said about the losing control part, I think this is the main thing in those moments, that we sometimes feel like we'll never feel the happy feelings again. And this is simply not true. You will. I feel like I'm chasing my manifestations to become happy, but I know it doesn't work like this. I understand completely. I guess then this topic was very fitting for you. I think this is what this choice of topic that just came through for me, and what I've been going through during the last few weeks, that's what it was born out of as well, because I also felt like I was chasing some things. And it's interesting because we can logically know that that's not the way to go. You know this, that I always talk about surrender. I always talk about, being present and accepting what's happening. Like, you can still live in the end of what you desire and still accept what's happening. But often when we think we're living in the end, we're really just living in denial of what we're really feeling, and we're just forcing ourselves to be somewhere where we're not, and that just creates more resistance and more pressure. And then we turn into this state of chasing and thinking our happiness lies somewhere out there. So that's why have a play, use your imagination. It's such a powerful tool. Use your imagination to play with those possibilities, but at the same time, be here and don't reject what's happening, and be okay with anything that might happen. This is one of the things that I do when I work with people one-on-one. So when I work with clients, is that I usually ask them, and I hold the space for that, because sometimes it's not a good idea to do this by yourself. I ask them to really face their biggest fear, because when you can look your biggest fear in the eye and you can be okay with the possibility of that happening, I'm not saying hold the vision for that, hold the vision for the thing you want, but learn to be okay with the thing you want to happen the least, Because once that fear and that resistance drops, once you're really at peace with anything, then you have the space to play with your imagination, to, have a little play in the quantum field and to use those possibilities without having this attachment and without chasing for happiness outside of yourself. See it as, this would feel so good to me, but don't turn it into this is the only thing that can happen, otherwise I'm not going to be happy, because that's the way you're wasting your life. You want to live in the end of what you want, but you want to enjoy every moment of your life and the process of the unfolding. You don't want to wait for things to change and be unhappy until that changes. Yep, you got me there. It's hard to do it by myself, but now I can feel it. Yeah, only do it by yourself if, you're ready for it. If you notice there's a part of you protecting you from those feelings, thank that part for protecting you, because sometimes we want to be a bit safer, which is why I'm recommending to do it in a container, and that doesn't need to be a professional container, by the way. That can be a friend you trust as well. It's simple. Yeah, it's all simple. Everything that I'm teaching, everything that I'm sharing is really damn simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. We're human. When we want something, we want something. The grass is always greener on the other side. It's absolutely natural. We don't want to feel our challenging emotions because it sucks. It's not fun. It's all understandable. Victoria says, I am manifesting a new self-concept actually. Feeling worthless is like in my bones. I know where it's come from, but I don't know what to do with it now. Okay, no. This is not true. Feeling worthless is not in your bones. You weren't born feeling worthless, so it's not in your bones. It's not who you are. It's not. You know where it comes from, so you know it's conditioning, you know it's programming. You don't know what to do with it now? Understandable, awareness is only the first step. The next step is to shift it. And there's so many ways to do it, and it really depends on what exactly is coming up for you. This is why this can be such a deep process. Don't reject it. Don't reject that part of you. Feel everything that's coming up with it. You can journal about it. You can meditate on it. You can work with somebody professionally to get to the bottom of it, because often we know where it comes from, but then we don't know what to do with it. And this is the exact thing. Like, feelings aren't rational. You might know, this is where it comes from, and I understand that it's not the truth, but I still feel it. You still feel it for a reason. How to deal with insecurities. I do have a couple of YouTube videos that deal with this. So if you want to check out my YouTube channel, that might help you in like a general way, because insecurities also come from conditioning. And I did a collaboration with Hillary, and we were talking about comparison and competition and dealing with jealousy and insecurity. Insecurity comes from you comparing yourself to others or how things should be. So it's always rooted in self-concept, right? It's always rooted in how you perceive yourself in comparison to how you think you should be, or how you perceive others, or what society tells you, or what your culture tells you, or what you've observed. It's about having compassion for yourself and finding the root of it, getting that worth from the inside back, and also acknowledging that comparison is kind of necessary, because otherwise we don't know if we don't feel lack, we don't know what we can desire. If we don't know what we find beautiful, we don't know what we also need to know what we don't find beautiful. Like, it's always, we live in a world of duality and polarity. And if you feel jealous, like my favorite thing, if you feel jealous of somebody else, if you think this person has something that I don't have and that's what I want, my favorite thing to do is always to see that as inspiration, to see that as, I could have that too, I could be that too. If it wasn't in me, I wouldn't see it in this other person. And that applies to the negative things and the potential, like the positive things and the potential. So I always like to see it as this person that I feel jealous of is showing me what's possible for me. It's showing me my own potential. It's showing me what I could have too. It only makes me feel bad. It only makes me feel jealous because I'm not stepping into that and I'm not fulfilling that right now myself. I told you I'm having a bit of a creative block. at the moment, but I am slowly getting back to it. I'm slowly getting back to creating content. I'm also getting back. I've started coaching again after I had almost 2 weeks off. So if you're interested in working with me as well, you can send me a DM and I can send you information about this, or you can go straight to the link in my bio and schedule a free connection call where we can just have a chat and see if it's for you and if you are for me, and see if we align or not. Thank you for joining me, and I wish you a beautiful day. I love you.